atmosphere and do nothing about it and just say, well, it's somebody else's problem. Somebody else is going to come along and fix this. Somebody else is going to come along and make the difference instead of stepping up and being that difference. And I understand that not everybody's made for that. Not everybody is able to do that. And I understand that. But you should not denigrate the people who do have the ability to do it, the people who do want to step up and be that person and say, man, that is bad. I need to go walk over there and do something about it. I'm not going to wait for it to get over here.
I think the incel thing is a really good kind of place to go along with that. I think a lot of people, like a lot of incels, are in those communities and are in those circles because they feel like nobody else they can't reach out to anybody else, and they find a community that they feel really supports them. And maybe it turns out toxic, maybe not. But the last thing that you're going to do if you want to change their mind is instantly treat them like they're terrible, horrible people, and they're going to do terrible things to you, and that they're awful. When a lot of them, I feel, are there out of desperation or confusion, or they just don't know. And I think that, like, I was born, well, wasn't born. I was raised Catholic, and I didn't become an atheist because I stayed in the Christian bubble.
Mm-hmm. Been there.
I don't think that anybody is saying that we shouldn't have the conversations. Or difficult conversations shouldn't be had.
No, some people are.
Nobody's saying that.
Is that
some people are.
Well,
maybe outside of this show. I think that the people that are in this conversation are saying, yes, we should have those difficult conversations.
Well, no.
With appropriate resistance.
I think they're saying that we can have the conversations, but I think there are some people in this chat, or at least one person in this who thinks that it shouldn't be with a representative of that belief.
Say again.
Huh. What?
Like,
I didn't understand that.
Like, for instance, you shouldn't talk about incels with an incel. You should talk about incels without an incel.
Well, are you talking about me? Is that what we're talking about?
At least you. That's why I said at least one.
Okay, so why don't you just address me rather than just beat around the bush? Let's get right to it.
Because it doesn't have to.
Because I didn't know it was just you. I'm not going to assume somebody else's beliefs. I've already kind of picked that up from you, but
yeah, I do take issues with incels and the fact that they do have forums where they talk about different ways that they can follow women and frighten them and try to do things to rape them. This is a problem, and this isn't.
Hi.
This isn't okay.
Yeah, they've created horrible.
Shannon.
Can I? Hi.
Yeah,
hi.
Yes. Shannon,
hi.
Please.
Okay, so I'm the female who talked to the incels, right? So I chose to do that. Mm-hmm. I made the conscious decision to do that, and I have a pretty strong stance on situations like this. My stance in situations like this is, you don't have to like what I do. You don't have to watch what I do. But if I allow people with dangerous ideologies to just culminate together without being countered, that only serves to help them propagate and further ruminate amongst themselves.
Yeah.
So if I make I understand that you don't have to watch, and I don't understand that you don't have to like it. But what I don't understand is having an issue with directly confronting bad ideologies. Ignoring them will not make them go away.
Yeah.
It just means that you don't have to see them.
Nobody's ignoring them.
I have.
So what is to be done then? Rather than what is to be done? Do you not counter them? Do you just allow them to exist separate? Or do you only counter their ideas without them being there? Because then you run the risk of inadvertently strawmanning them or having the accusation that you are. If they are present with you, you can counter them directly, and there's no margin of error.
Okay.
Some of these people don't want to be countered. They don't. Doesn't matter how much they argue with.
If they don't want to be countered, then they're not going to have the discussion anyway. So you don't talk to those specific individuals.
Some of these people will use what Mel's trying to say is some of these people will literally use these platforms simply for their own self-promotion. And
that's what they do. I mean, the bandwagon effect is a bias that exists.
Yeah.
More people
that's
believe
just
a
the natural
particular
result
thing.
of any group. That's just what some Muslims blow themselves up. So
right.
Okay, I want to make a point about the bandwagon effect. That's the main reason why we have anti-vaxxers right now, because they were consistently given a platform and they were allowed lots and lots of time. Netflix is just now removing vaxxed. They're just now doing it because we're having consistent measles epidemic. But the thing is the whole anti-vax movement was based on the fact the media kept talking about it. And they didn't retract very much at all, and they didn't counter that a lot. Now, I understand that with the NonSequitur show, they're trying to counter a lot of these particular perspectives. But the thing is, the risk that you run is the more you allow people to talk about their perspectives, the greater the risk you have of what's called the bandwagon effect, where people will start to relate to that, and it can increase their numbers. That is what I'm trying to say. So if you're not careful about who you have on your show, they might very well use that as an opportunity to push their platform. That's what I'm saying to you.
Right. Yes, but they can have an opportunity to push their platform, but at the same time, by showing up, they can preach as long as the day is long, and it's if they're being countered, if they're being opposed, if their ideas are being combated in a productive way with somebody else who's knowledgeable about it, then it not only helps them, but it helps any of these people who are following them. I mean, who's to say, like, for instance, like if Red Pill Religion was on, I'm not going to bring up the incels anymore. If Red Pill Religion was on, I can't stand Max Colby, and somebody was against him, and he's promoting his Red Pill Religion. Who's to say that one of his followers won't watch the video and say, "Oh, that other guy's right. Like, I don't think I agree with Max anymore." I mean, like, so maybe it's not about changing that person's mind, but maybe it's about presenting an argument to the public that somebody can analyze and get two different perspectives at the same time without the additions of people running to Google and researching and doing response videos, and it's forcing people to respond in real time to opposition to their ideologies that otherwise would not have gone opposed within an echo chamber.
But some ideologies are just flat out false and don't deserve a platform. Like,
right.
like anti-vaxxers.
There's correct and there's incorrect. I mean,
correct.
So
like
it's just,
everything that the anti-vaxxer says is based on conspiracy theory that's been debunked and is false. So giving them a platform only further perpetuates, like.
No.
To be fair, though, Katie.
Wait. To be
fair, Katie. To be fair, hold on. To be fair, we talked about having an anti-vax debate on the show that we do on Sunday. That's giving them a platform.
Right.
No, I understand that. I'm just saying, like, if we're going to have a debate, we're going to have someone like an immunologist that can counter what they're saying, that can debunk that.
That's what we do here.
Yeah.
That's what we do every time.
Yeah, I think that the reason why this is coming up is because of the hijack situation. It's that usually what NonSequitur does is they have.
Fuck off with this
Dude,
hijacks. It
I'm
happened
agreeing
one time.
with you,
Fuck
man.
off with it.
I think that what your usual thing is that you do exactly that. I'm agreeing with you, Kyle. Jesus.
Yes, like Kyle. Do you think I would be on the? Do you think I would co-host a weekly episode with you?
Let me explain why. Let me explain my frustration then, because I'm hearing we can't give these people a platform. They don't deserve a platform. Yet I just gave an example of how we would be giving them a platform.
I think the only thing that Mel is arguing and what I'm saying is there has to be balance. And last night there wasn't a balance to the There wasn't a balance.
So is the issue that nobody countered him strongly enough? Is the issue essentially that everybody here feels like he didn't lose badly enough? If somebody had come in and trounced him, would we even be having this conversation?
No, we would
of course not.
No.
So that's the issue, is that they didn't vet the opposition enough.
No.
How many people walked away from the discussion with JF and other person and became ardent ethno-nationalists?
I didn't hear the question.
I was saying how many people walked away from this terrible, horrible hijack discussion last time and became ethno-nationalists because of it?
Nobody.
Okay,
well, but that's the thing is we're not.
Nobody became an
We're
ethno-nationalist.
not, but like people watching, you don't know who's gonna watch.
Okay. So what, Katie? What I heard you say is that there are some ideas out there that are too crazy to even be discussed. Is that correct?
I'm talking, well, in terms of like anti-vaccine, if you don't have an opposing, like, yeah, some things are just literally crazy.
Okay, so I mean, we just got finished talking about how bad and the anti-vaxxers are and how bad the measles outbreak is and how prominent that bad idea is. Why in the hell would you not be proactive about that? Why in the hell would you not get an anti-vaxxer on, get them to make their best fucking argument? Hang on.
So,
get them to make their best argument against an immunologist and have it debunked right there in real time. What is the harm in that?
I am on Kyle's show, and that's like what I do for a living is like deal with these people.
Yeah,
I never said that. Don't even go there with me.
What do
Like,
we all
what
consider
I would
platforming, guys?
is that
But
I think there's cross-talking on platforming.
One at a time.
I think there's cross-talking on what platforming is.
Yeah, so
I think that's a really big issue what's going on here.
My idea of what a platform is like an audience. And what Mel was saying about the anti-vaxxers is that the media for years has not countered these documentaries and the information that's been out about the vaccine, like skepticism. And so they've allowed like documentaries like Vax to exist and to allow papers that have been debunked since 2010 by Andrew Wakefield to still maintain this mainstream idea that autism and vaccines are related, which they're not. There hasn't been a responsibility within the media to present factual information. And they're learning this right now, that the problem is that there has been so much opposition that's been able to come into a platform where there's been dead material, and there's been a material like there's been so much anti-vax material coming out, but not enough people like supporting vaccines coming up. So there's become a disconnect where this audience grew so much because there wasn't enough information countering it. Because in terms of science, vaccines are already settled as safe and effective. So there wasn't a need to counter it. So they took that space and they went a mile.
But here's the thing, Katie.
But that's the problem, though.
You're proving the point. Hold on, Jim. You're proving the point. You need to counter those ideas. Those bad ideas have to be countered. I mean, that's what you're saying right now. Yes. Absolutely. So, and I think, I mean, for the most part of the time, that's what at least NonSequitur does. And that was kind of my point earlier. Like, I agree that people should not necessarily give their platforms to white nationalists or other extremist ideas to just spout their ideas with no counter. But last night, they countered each other until it went off topic. So that's what I'm trying to say is, me personally, I wouldn't have JF, but they had a counter to JF. So I guess you need to counter the bad ideas. But here's the question I've been waiting to ask everybody. Do you think that people can't change their minds? Because that's the whole point of the debate, is to get the best, to get the arguments out there and let the best one win. And maybe people will change their minds. Do you think people can't change their minds?
I think they can, but it's extremely unlikely in a lot of cases when you're dealing with people who are conspiracists.
I'll take that risk for the very few who will.
Sure. And for the people that are watching quietly. It's the people that are watching quietly. You may never even hear about them.
Right. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. I'm talking about
the people that matter. It doesn't matter at all. If the person you are countering doesn't ever change their mind, it doesn't matter if all of the people that are watching are now open to a new opinion. And here's another thing regards to platform that I haven't been brought up, or I haven't heard brought up. So these people have audiences. They have audiences. They're influencers. They are influencing people actively every day. those audiences follow them to other platforms. If they're following them to a platform where they are now finally being cogently countered, this may be the first time they're exposed to a counter argument that can be effective against the indoctrination that they've been exposed to. If you say, don't